Hey y'all, what's going on? Thank you for checking out this video. As you can tell by the title, I'm going to be kind of going over a little recap and some of the baits that I used down in Florida last week for the first Bassmaster Open on Kissimmee chain. I had a pretty tough tournament on the co-angler side. I think I finished like right at 100th place. I had a total weight of 5 pounds, 15 ounces with 4 keepers, and I was, if I could have got a 3-pounder and a pound and a half, 2-pounder, I would have been up there in the 30s and 40s, to get a check, but it just didn't work out. I didn't have the bites on the first day, but I had enough weight the second day where if I'd have had a good first day, I could have had a check. But I mean, that's just how it goes. You can't always get a check and do good even as much as you want to. But I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. So on the first day, like if y'all have watched, I'm gonna put the link for the videos in my description in case you missed them. But on the first day, I'm just gonna go through it pretty quick. We started offshore, and I was just throwing this chatterbait. It's a good color. I'm sorry, I dropped this one. It's a good color when you're down in Florida. Hopefully y'all can see that, just that white and got some brown and gold in it, and then it's got that gold blade. I threw that for the first, hour and a half out there. My boater caught one fish and some offshore grass, and that was it that morning. Threw a worm out there a little bit. I didn't try jerk bait. Looking back, I guess I wish I would have. I know a lot of guys caught them on a jerk bait, but I threw that chatterbait out there. I figured if they were biting, one would have hit that thing. So, like I said, I threw that for a little while the first day. We went and punched, and while we were punching, I've never really punched much. I mean, I was punching when I had to, but we kind of got in an area where there was some stuff behind us, some grass and some pads. So I did pick this thing back up, and I just had like Zako, the little Yamamoto Zako trailer, a white one. I had that on the back of this, and I caught one. I think it was like a pound and a half, maybe a pound 4 ounces. So I got my first keeper, just throwing this thing out behind the boat into the wind, just a little gold chatterbait. So I had one keeper. This isn't like 10 o'clock maybe, so it's pretty late in the morning, but early in the day, looking at it as a whole. So, I had one keeper by 10:30, and I'm like, okay, this is doable. So we kept punching for about an hour, no more luck, and then we moved to some pads and some Kissimmee grass. So we pulled up to the first spot, and I had this bait right here tied on, a Magnum June bug speed worm. Had that tied on, and I threw it maybe 4 times. Boom, one comes up and smokes it. Absolutely smokes it. And he missed it. I don't know if it was a bass, pickerel, what it was, but we kept fishing around for 30 more minutes or so. 30 more minutes, kept fishing, and my boater got a couple bites on a natural color, like a green pumpkin and like a brim color. So I went from the June bug to this color right here, that is a June bug. I don't know why it's in this box or bag. I went to this, just a green pumpkin, like green pumpkin candy that's got some purple and green flake in it. Threw that one around for a little while, got another bite back in a little canal, a little cut, and it missed it. So that right there, I had 2 bites on both colors within about an hour. And now, we're looking at, past 12 o'clock. It's 12:30, and I've had those 2 misses on a speed worm, and that was it. And we kept going around, and my boater, about 1 o'clock, he started getting some more bites. And he was throwing a smaller little swimming worm. I'm not exactly sure what it was. So he started throwing a smaller one. So I switched up just to the regular speed worm green pumpkin. I mean, it doesn't get any more natural than that. Like I said, just that regular green pumpkin with some black in it. I threw it around, and I think I had one rolled on a pad on it, and that was it. And my boater finished out his limit. I think he had like 8.5 pounds. He caught one on a chatterbait early, one punching, and then the other 3 just came from swimming a worm and some pads and some grass. So nothing crazy. Like I said, I guess technically I did have 3 bites. Granted, if they were all bass, I could have had a limit, but it's hard to say. It could have been pickerel, could have been whatever. But I guess looking back, if it was bass, I did have the bites to have a limit. So, like I said, I had the bites, but I just could not get them hooked that day. So for day 2, kind of knowing what I had done on day 1, and talked to my boater, and unfortunately he ran to Kissimmee the first day and had some motor issues. He got stuck in Kissimmee, couldn't weigh in on Toho, And to make a long story short, we were the last boat that left day 2 of the tournament, and we just trolled all day. We were able to idle a little bit, but we were mainly on the trolling motor 95% of the day. And we just started right there at the boat ramp and trolled around. And I started off, trying to throw a top water, hoping for a big giant bite to put me back in the thing. And, never got a bite. And after about an hour or so, my boater caught one on a wacky worm. And, I started throwing my speed worm around, still throwing chatterbait, all that stuff. And we're going through, and we get back in this little cut, if you'll see on the video, and I pick up a wacky worm on a spinning rod and throw it over there, working it, and I feel a hit, and my line's slack, so I reel my slack up and set the hook, had it for about a second, and it pulled off. I don't know if it was little, I don't know if it just had the side of the worm, I don't know what happened, but I didn't catch him. And then about that time, my boater catches one. After we leave there, we roll back out towards the lake, and my boater catches one, a big one on a Magnum speed worm, like a 3-pounder, 2.5, 3-pounder, swimming it through some Kissimmee grass. So I was like, well, maybe they do want that speed worm, because I had been throwing it and putting it back down and all that. So I picked it back up. He was throwing June bugs, so I started throwing that green pumpkin, the natural color. We fished for about an hour and a half, no more bites. We got back in this one little area, kind of in between the bank and an outside grass line. We kind of worked our way in the middle, so we were the bank here and then a grass line on the other side. And I switched from the big speed worm, the Magnum one, put back down on that regular size with a little bitty tungsten weight. And my first cast with that one right there, that little green pumpkin, first cast, I caught a keeper largemouth. So that was my first keeper of the day. I don't know how much it weighed, maybe a pound and a half, I'm not sure. So I had one, my boater had two at this time, and we kept going, and about an hour later, I had another hit on my speed worm, and it seemed like a good fish. If you watch the video, you might see it. I kind of threw over a little corner of Kissimmee grass, and I felt the hit, and I set the hook, and it bowed up pretty good, and it made a wake, it rolled, so whatever it was big enough to make it wake. I mean, it could have been a little one, but usually when they do that, it's a big one. So I missed that one, and I don't think my boater had any more. So we like I said, we're trolling the whole way, and I mean, this is probably 11:30 by this time. So we keep trolling for a couple more hours, and it got slow there for a little while. About 1:30, it was getting tough mentally. So we started heading back to the boat ramp, like to get out in front of the boat ramp. If you've been at Lake Toho, if you fished the tournament, you saw there was 20-25 boats out there fishing right in front of Big Toho. So we worked our way back over there. This is like 3 o'clock, and we're due in at 5:40. So at the time, he's got two keepers, I've got the one. No more bites in between. I mean, maybe one, but from like 11 to 3, it was brutal. We didn't have anything. So we get back in front of Big Toho. I'm throwing a chatterbait, throwing this guy right here. I mean, I just was so on this color. I mean, it's that gold blade, all that stuff, down in Florida. But it just was not working. So I'm throwing my chatterbait around, and my boater catches one on a jerkbait. Not a big one, just a keeper. And, looking around, you can kind of see other guys, and everybody was looking down at their live scope, at their active target, and throwing a jerkbait. That's what it looked like everyone was doing, trying to hit those grass clumps. So I'm thinking, well, I hate to have to do what everybody else is doing, but at the same time, it does not seem like they want a chatterbait. I haven't got a chatterbait bite all day. So I tied on just this little shallow running jerkbait. It's got like a blue back, and it's got some green chartreuse on the bottom and like a white silver side. Tie that thing on about not even 5 minutes. I caught one, a small keeper, like 12 1/4. It was barely a keeper, but I got him in. And we're thinking, okay, we're about to maybe fill out a limit right here, because we had caught 2 fish within 10 minutes. And went about another hour on the jerkbait, hour and 15 minutes, no more bites. We saw one guy catch a pickerel, that was it. So we moved areas. There was some boats in the area for a while, and they went to weigh in, and it was kind of empty for about 30 minutes. And we started trolling that way and saw some birds diving, and so we're thinking, maybe there's some bait in the area. So we kept throwing our jerkbait. My boater caught a couple on a lipless crankbait and missed one. I was throwing a gold lipless, no luck. Tried the jerkbait, tried my chatterbait. So at about, let's see, we had to weigh in at 5:40. So this must have been 5 o'clock. I'm on one fish. Or no, I'm sorry, I'm on two fish. I had the first one on the speed worm and the little one on the jerkbait. So I'm at two fish, about 5 o'clock, 40 minutes to go. So I took off this one that I've been throwing for nearly 2 days straight, and I put on a little white 3/8 ounce chatterbait, silver blade, and just a skinny trailer, like a 4-inch, really skinny body paddle tail trailer that's got a lot of just kick. Tied that on. 5 minutes, boom, I catch one, like a 2-pounder, pushing a 2-pounder. I flip him in the boat, and he had choked. I mean, he smoked it. He had the whole thing down his mouth. I mean, he wanted it. So I get him in the boat, get my bait ready, and I'm throwing around. About 5 minutes later, another one hits it. I'm fighting it. I don't know how big it is. It comes up and jumps. Not as big as the first one that was pushing 2. It was probably 1.75 pounds maybe. Fighting it all the way to the boat, get it up to the side, and there's no nets in the opens, so I kind of had the momentum of the fish coming, so I went to swing it, and when I swung him up, it kind of come up at an awkward angle, and the hook comes out, and it literally just falls in slow motion. You can see it on the video. It's heartbreaking, but looking back, I mean, yes, it would have been nice to have that fish. I might have finished 70th place instead of 100th, but I mean, it wouldn't have got me a check or anything. So instead of having 4 pounds that day, 4 pounds and 11 ounces, I could have had, maybe 6 pounds, 5'11". So, not that big of a deal. Like I said, I caught those 2 bites back to back on that little white chatterbait. So my boater's tied on the chatterbait, and he got his last keeper, and that was it. That was in the last 30 minutes of the day. Got back to weigh in, like I said. We weighed in our stuff and all that, and I started to head home. But for me, it was a pretty tough tournament. I mean, looking at the baits I just held up, that's what the guys that won it were doing. I mean, the same thing. It's just you got to be in the right area and around the right fish, and it was just neither of my boaters were really on anything, which is, I mean, obviously not their fault, not my fault. I mean, I'm kind of just I'm there to learn and do what they're doing, but it's hard sometimes if your boater's not really getting 30 bites a day. If he's just getting 5 or 6 good bites a day, it kind of makes it tough. So that's kind of the situation I was in. And too, we had to troll the second day. But, looking back, we probably could have stayed right there in front of Biggest Ho-Ho both days and done good. I mean, I know a lot of guys, Elite Series guys were there. Guys that made top 20s were right there in front of Big Toho fishing. So, looking back, that's what we could have done maybe. But I had a good time. I enjoyed being down there. But like I said, my main bait that really helped me out was that little white chatterbait with a little skinny trailer on there, and then I did catch one on the jerkbait, and then just that little green pumpkin speed worm, the regular size. I had 3 or 4 hits on the big one, but they just never hooked up. And then of course on the first day I did catch the one on the golden chatterbait. But that was it. So first tournament's in the books. I've got a couple more in between the next one, but the next open is at the end of March, 1st of April, so I'm looking forward to that on Cherokee. Hopefully the weather's right. Those fish should be biting. I've never caught a smallmouth, so hopefully that's the tournament where it happens. And thank y'all so much for watching this video, just my little tournament recap from the open. And thanks for all the support, and everybody that's new here, thank you for subscribing. And I'm about to really get some videos going. It's fishing season now. We're back into it, and I'm going to be busy, from right now all the way to September, October. So I'm going to be fishing as much as I can, and I'll see y'all next time.